Right, this is video 6 of the Ayahuasca journal, if I've got it right. So, I'm Broderick Wallace.
Samuel Conor.
And we're on now beginning the 4th session of our joint Ayahuasca journey. Four of 5. And, I don't feel like I ever need to do it again, do you?
No.
I feel like we had a lifetime's worth of ups and downs, and we'll talk about it at the end, but it's kind of still around, you know.
Not many people would want to do it again after the 4th session.
Yeah, and as even I don't know if you can see it on camera, but the light is beginning to fade here. As things actually begin to get darker in this room, the sessions become even darker than the last one. So again, we don't rehearse these, we don't look at the notes, we're just reading it out. So if I say something rude or stupid or whatever, it's like, well, who cares? This is the reality, you know. So 4th session, 29th of July 2018. Excuse me, I'm still processing that apple crumble. Black and white. This is really key, black and white, because it's moved from the rainbow to monochrome, like, black and white, yeah. Magpies, cat. Samuel Connor's house.
Yeah. So that was you.
Yeah, because you had an experience at your house at the same time I was having an experience at my house.
Yeah, I had all these magpies.
You had loads of
my windows.
Yeah, you had magpies crawling all over your roof, and I had a black and white cat scratching at my door, and we were on the phone like going, "Fuck, black and white, black and white." So seeing as though we're having that experience there right at the beginning, we already know that this is related to Bluebell Hill, you know. So we'll start again anyway in a minute. Ask me questions about aliens. All right. Ask me questions about aliens. I said this to you. Ask me questions about aliens, because all of a sudden I was plugged in again. I was mouthpiece again. I had that. But she couldn't really see that far, but something was coming in. So something alien in the room. Black-faced shaman. Rainbow with black mixed. She came, my hand like... I can't read that bit out, but there was a connection there with the entity from Bluebell Hill, because I did what I was, supposed to do. Initiation. She is real. This is where I'm sitting now, and I'm like, fuck. She's real. She's so real, because she's here. It was just so shockingly real. Yeah. White lady, young, holding my hand desperately. We can all exit. I feel her pain. Together. Jealousy. Go out to the garage. There will be a sign. Samuel saw it. The crow puddle. Come back. Take more. Me. Took some more. Threw up for the first time because I was greedy. Too much. When I say I was greedy, I was, it's obviously greedy for experience. I wanted to push it further. Pushed it too far, and she was like, well, you've gone too far now. I'm not here to prevent you from being sick. Face the consequences. And I was sick. And there's a little bit here about, I did speak a little bit about this, this person in the Philippines that I had a relationship with, and there was a prophecy here. Obviously this is a long time ago now, but she said that, it says here, I will be like a father figure to her. So again, you've got all this weird sort of maternal, paternal things going on. And then there's a prophecy about my future purpose in life as the years roll on. Right, that's all the notes, so we can start again.
The fact that there's not many notes is indicative that it was all in the experience, this one, because I'm sure there were parts of this where you weren't able to make notes, you know, because there was so much going on experientially.
Yeah. And I will say there's something written in the margin as well that I don't want to go into, but like the people that are the most precious to me don't think that you were left out of this experience. It was excruciating, but I won't go into that one here. So beginning with black and white magpies. So basically one of us called the other and said, I've got magpies scratching all over my roof going mental, which was you. And then I'm on the phone going, there's something scratching at my door. And I open the front door and there's a black and white cat just scratching the door. Like, when does that ever happen? Yeah. So we both received this sign, and this is all the way through my channel. You know, this is, you know, anyone who could be bothered to sit through the horror of my changing mind states and ongoing experience. And I can't even talk about all of it, which is frustrating, but I like to think at least I'm brave enough to leave something behind, because it would be such a shame not to. It would be such a shame, because when you deal with these types of experiences and you mix in the occult as well, you're going to have a hell of a story on your hands, and you want to get strapped in, because it's going to get rough, you know. But in the typical journey of evolution, if you like, the hero's journey, whatever you want to call it, or the idiot's journey, there's something to be won from that. But you see, it would be irresponsible to encourage anybody else to do it, because I will say it nearly killed me, and you'll vouch for that, won't you? It's nearly wiped me out, you know, at least a couple of times. So it's not something to, you know, casually joke about in this instalment. Things got really rough. So so yeah, you're on the phone, there's magpies all over, and you're like, they're black and white, and we know what that means. We know.
Carry on.
And this has been something that has, it's a shame it would be inappropriate to go into it here, but this has never stopped, and it won't stop, because if it's that strong, someone else's doubting consciousness is not powerful enough to affect this. Believe me when I tell you, when the presence is that strong, making a video ain't going to make any difference. I mean, who's going to watch it anyway? How many people? How many people will really be paying attention? And those that do will perhaps detect the sincerity of what we're saying, so that will only strengthen you know, what we're talking about. So
what was the date of this? 29th of July?
29th of July 28. Did I say that yet? 4th session, 29th of July 2018.
Let's have a look. So I'm just looking on here to see what phase of the moon we were in, but let's have a look.
Okay. While you're doing that, I'll say, I remember, because we'd gone through a lot of stuff. It's like, well, all the things that we're interested in, why not just explore that with the connection? So I remember saying, I've got contact again, I'm mouthpiece again, ask me questions about aliens. So I think then you proceeded to ask me a few questions concerning aliens, but then the signal became, I couldn't really get a lot through, because it's like, well, she's tied to the earth, she can't really, you know, there's not a lot she can really say about that. But something came through at that moment, and I think you were the one that shouted, there's something alien in the room.
Yeah. So just double checking, yeah, so the moon was full around that time, so it would have just gone past full on the 29th. So yeah, basically there was a lot of moon power on that night.
Did it say what sign?
I'd have to look a bit more thoroughly.
Okay, we won't.
I've been on the internet for ages, but
We won't worry about. Anyone can look that up if they want to see where the moon, which sign the moon was in on 29th of July 2018. So something alien in the room, and I remember you were really shook up at that. You're like, there's something alien in the room, and as you said that, I saw the dashboard of a spaceship basically in front of me. So like I saw, space in the distance through the the screen, and there were all these, like, a bit like when you hear the Bob Lazar talking about the interior of the sports model, like just weird glyphs and buttons and strange stuff that is not human, and was there anything else you can remember concerning the alien thing?
Not the alien thing, no. I was just thinking about the astrology, and I think we chose this particular day. So obviously the full moon would have been the bang on the full moon would have been the 27th. We chose the 29th because the moon became conjunct Saturn on that date. So it's full moon conjunct Saturn on that day.
So we were literally egging it on from last time.
All of these rituals, all these ayahuasca sessions, they would definitely had an astrological time into them. We always made sure of that. The first one where there was a triple conjunction of Mars, Jupiter, and the Moon, or Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. I can't remember which one, but there was something about full moon conjunct Saturn in whatever sign it was. So that was partially for the reason that we got a dark one, because there was a Saturn element involved in the previous one as well. So yeah.
Yeah. So anything alien come up for you? Because I do remember you talking about it, but I don't want to say unless you don't want to go into it.
I don't remember anything alien, as in any visions. There were visions in this, so this is the one, because it's not written down, but you threw up and I didn't this time, so I had it stay in. And the sort of progression of the state of otherworldliness that you have in the earlier rituals wasn't picturesque and beautiful in any way. It was a gradual sense of impending dread and fear, and there was a gradual increasing vibration in the room that eventually you can usually shut out ayahuasca visions by opening your eyes, and that's well catalogued with pure DMT as well, that behind closed eyes it's fully immersive, or you have a full immersive experience for a brief amount of time, but you can quite easily kick yourself out of it. With this, open eyes seemed to make it worse. So there was something different about this particular session. You couldn't actually run away from it, and the room gradually started to kind of vibrate more and more with this kind of, not a sound in itself, but a kind of drone, some sort of, like the explicit knowing thing. Again, you've kind of got a beyond sensory understanding of something in the room, and that was sort of gradually increasing, and it wasn't terrifying, it was just, you were just having the experience, so we weren't pulling the sheets up and kind of hiding.
Yeah, we were never scared throughout any of this, to be honest, none of it. But we were just living through the darkness of it.
Yeah. So, and then also obviously the alien thing, coming back to that, so I don't remember anything alien-esque typically, but there was a presence that hadn't been present in the previous rituals. So there was either a complete polarity to...
We're literally 2 lines away from it,
Yeah, so you can, carry on.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to shut you up there.
No, sure.
So the next thing, which we can cover quickly, I do remember there was more to the alien thing, but we'll leave that out because that was more personal to you. I'm not saying he's an alien or anything, but he had some intimations that he's obviously forgotten that I remember.
Tend to forget.
So maybe when you have your moments where you're just staring at the stars, maybe you're connecting with the Space Brothers.
I don't know. No.
So what I saw then was a black-faced shaman. So this is literally like an Amerindian shaman who has painted his face black, and he's got like jade jewellery hanging from his ears, his nose, the feathers, the whole shebang, and he's fucking evil, man. And again, do you remember I said in the last one that I felt like something in the rainforest knew that I was there? Again, I had that feeling that this guy is a real guy somewhere in the rainforest. I had that feeling, you know. But I can't prove it. It's just that's just the feeling. That's the explicit knowing that I had, that this was some dude who's out there who you probably wouldn't want to cross, you know. So the next we move to, this is where we said the dread and the change, because I saw an image of this is a proper, you know, ayahuasca vision, where if you imagine all the colours of ayahuasca are being poured out of a pot, and it's all bright and colourful, just like ayahuasca usually is, all bright and all bright and colourful, but literally as paint. So if you imagine someone's pouring a big pot, and within this pot, all the colours of the rainbow are clearly sectioned off from each other, but running in unison like a rainbow. So basically rainbow paint is pouring out of like a cauldron. And then all of a sudden, someone tips black paint into that rainbow, which obviously starts to, you know, ruin the rainbow. And then eventually the rainbow just becomes you know, kind of monochrome shade of literally everything between white and black, but centering in on the black. So a bit like my artwork, you know, I like to do black and white artwork. Everything just became black and white. There was no colour anymore. It was all gone. And I haven't made notes here, but I do remember, and I can't, why did I not write this down? I had this vision where something like opened up, like it was like fuzzy around the edges, but in the center it was clear-ish, and everything else was black. And I saw a figure walking across a field towards me, and he was a big built guy with ripped clothing on and a hood. Yeah, I'll leave you to make the, you know, the correlation, because it's too bloody obvious, right? So a big built guy, all his clothing is ripped, got a hood on, but it looks ancient. It looks really, really, really ancient, you know, like Neolithic times, or, you know, ancient Britons, whatever. And obviously there's no colour, it's all black and white. And as he's walking along, something's bobbing on his belt. And as I look closer, it's two human heads strapped to his belt, and another one in his hand, I believe. Yeah, so there was like 2 or 3 heads on his personage. He was holding one of them, and they're all sort of bobbing along as he's just like walking across a field, and that's it, like, you know. And so I've come back to that a few times over the years. That was it's especially striking now, seeing as though I actually saw this figure last night in meditation. It just came to mind immediately. So, you know, funny things happen when you start talking about things, or even before you start talking about things. You know, things do tend to line up again. And I believe, as well as the obvious correlations, this relates to the hooded figure that I talked about in some of my very early videos. I was saying that there was one character on Bluebell Hill who was aggressive and very dark, that was hooded, that kind of wasn't comfortable with my presence, but gradually became comfortable with my presence. So I'm guessing, I don't know for certain, but, and also there was a meditation I did in my old house where it floated towards me, and I always regret that I wish I'd kept my eyes closed, but it was like, well, someone was in the room, so like you felt like you needed to open your eyes and get up, because it was literally coming, you know, gliding across the room towards me. And that room is the same room in the same place where you would have the experience of the emanation. So it does tie in there. And we've talked about all the shadows in the old house in a previous video, which is the Goddess of Bluebell Hill video. So we've talked about that house and everything that went on in that house. So we don't need to cover that in these videos. So you'll find that in the interviews and conversations playlist if you want to watch that. So the rainbow turns black and white. I have the vision of the big built, you know, roughed up guy with the heads in the field. And then she appears to interact with me, and I have to leave some of the details out. But it relates to everything that we've been talking about in terms of, you know, the darkness, etc. And that's when I'm sitting next to you and I'm like this complete presence just filled the room, this absolute certainty. And I'm like, so all the videos that I made before this happened, I was like, yeah, you know, this is going on and that's going, I've seen it. But like in this moment, it was like the difference between theory and reality, if you like, in a way. Well, I mean, it's always been reality, but like it was like the difference between dream and, you know, it's the difference between dreaming about someone and meeting someone like in the flesh. It was like, you know, I'm sure you remember, I'm like, she's real. Like, fuck, she's so real. And ever since that day, I've, you know, there's not been there's been no doubt in my mind whatsoever. So this was precluded by, is that the right word, precluded by the black and white animals that turned up before the session to both of our houses, right? So I'll say something now. Basically, the Goddess of Bluebell Hill, which I've since given a name. I don't want to go into all of it here. So that way, I know that the people who are genuinely open will put the pieces together from different videos. So she's there in the room. She's interacting with me in a personal way where we're touching, and I'm being transformed in a particularly shamanic way, which I'm not going to talk about. And what I felt was just the absolute despair and loneliness of this being, and it touches me still to this day. Like, she's been misunderstood for millennia. Recently, we have the Bluebell Hill ghost legend. That you, I mean, just type that in online, you can find it. You know, this exists before us, right? So she's a goddess, like a full-on goddess. It's not a ghost, you know. But you see, I don't know. There might be. See, in paganism, sometimes things like morph in and out of each other. So like, even though I say she's a goddess, there's a chance she might have also been a real woman that lived at a certain time. Because I mean, just look at, you know, what's his name? The Egyptian guy who designed the step pyramid. What's his name again? Imhotep.
All right.
Yeah. Asclepius becomes a god in ancient Egypt and becomes Asclepius. Yeah. So apparently this guy really lived, but he became a god over time. So I can't rule that out, that this person actually lived at some point, you know, in the very, in the deepest antiquity. Yeah. So I've already described her on different videos, so we don't need to go into that. But the shocking reality, and I know there's another point here actually, which is because every time I used to drive that way, and we've talked about my ex-wife vision and all that on the other video, but like every time I used to drive down that road, I would turn my mind towards her. I would make a gesture towards her, and she signaled in this moment that she appreciated and understood those gestures and was, aware of them. So that's something else that happened. So now we have jealousy taking place. Remember that?
Yeah, I could feel it. It's palpable.
Yeah. It's like you're interacting with butter knife. I'm here now. I'm the one. You know?
Yeah.
Like childlike jealousy, like really strong. And I remember, like, I'm sitting there, I'm like, she just poured the black paint into the rainbow, and I'm like, look, let's all just calm down for a moment. Just because we're interacting with butter knife, I haven't forgotten you. There's nothing to worry about. We can all coexist. There's a moment for this, there's a moment for that. Your importance is not diminished. You will not be forgotten. I'm making this video right now, yeah, which proves that, just to throw in that weird tangent there, between one instant in time and another. So it's a funny thing to know that these beings experience those very real human emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So that seemed to have calmed things down, but there would be another jealousy again in future. And I know it sounded terrible. I sound like I sound like some kind of UFO dude or whatever. Like, I can't talk about this. I can't go into that. But I've been told. I know it sounds like that, but like, I really can't. But there was another instance of jealousy again that would occur a couple of years later, which I also had to sort out again. So at this point, have we talked about? Oh no, that was the last one. When did you go downstairs and have that experience? It was this one, yeah?
It was after the...
It must be this one because the next one is the outdoor one.
Yeah, so I suppose the period of the experience you've just talked about, I could talk about what was going on with me through that period.
Yeah, please do, yeah.
It will be briefer because, as you know, I tend to sort of have an element of resistance.
Yeah.
But under this circumstance, I knew full well that I'd managed to keep the brew down. So already there was some intent to, this time I'm doing this, So for me, the gloves came off on this one, and I wasn't experiencing any sort of subconscious resistance to the brew. So, and because it had been, I hadn't managed to keep any of it down in the last two, really. The last time I would have had much of the dose was in the first experience, so quite a lot of time had elapsed since I'd been able to retain this stuff. So it was quite intense because I'd actually retained more of the brew than I'd ever done before, So I don't remember feeling sick at any point, and the visions were there. So behind those closed eyes, there was the same fractal images and all the sort of some of the colours, but it was almost like, when you're watching the colour TV and half the colours don't work, it's all sort of, most of it's grey, but there are bits of colour. So there was definitely some pressing force that was subduing all the colourful like positivity that you were sort of used to getting. And then, it was that growing vibration, that growing kind of, not the feeling of dread, but that something dreadful was kind of, it sounds a bit like a typical ghost story, but it definitely felt like it was outside the door trying to come in, outside the room trying to come in. So I was just trying to process the inner experience that I was having, but really I was experiencing phenomena in the room that this time, instead of it being a vision that I knew that was occurring from in here, it did seem external to me. And then there was this awareness that there could be two things competing, so there could be something in here competing with something out there, but it was difficult to place yourself in this experience. All I knew is that I wasn't going to be able to stop eventually whatever was coming in, and I actually had a talisman with me that I was holding throughout the whole experience. It's actually a crystal that I was holding, but it was a attracting that energy. Do you remember I was holding that in the experience? I don't have it anymore. It's a quartz crystal point, and
Oh yeah.
I just kept it on me a bit
Yeah.
like so. Obviously, I won't go into specifics of what that does, but it was definitely it felt like to me that it was sort of attracting whatever force was coming in, but also it was acting as a kind of protective weapon against it doing anything to me. So I held this thing throughout the whole situation. Then what happened next? So I'm really trying to play this back in my head. So yeah, visions. Right, now that's jogged my memory. So this is a strange phenomenon, but you see the way that on the camera here, the light is reflecting in beams sort of diagonally across the screen. So I was experiencing dark patches in the room, and I was also experiencing these shafts of kind of light that if I felt like I kind of lined my vision up, I was able to see through the room into something else. So it was almost like to experience part of what was going on in here with this brew. I was having to sort of adjust myself, like my posture, to try and line up with these kind of angular. It was a really weird experience. Like when someone shines a torch through the trees, you get beams, and it's like you have to sort of get in line with it to see. It was very strange. So I spent ages staring at this thing, and then I realised that these visions were really strong because I wasn't just doing it with the closed eyes. I was having a fully immersive experience in the room, and then there was a sudden ramping up of like a death energy, you know, a buzz sort of that really came in. I wouldn't know how to recreate it with sound, but it was very strange. There's a bit of it I'm going to leave out where I started having a dialogue and a vision of kind of seeing between worlds, and there was the concept presented to like the explicit knowing concept of a river and a crossing and two worlds, you know, and me as someone standing on the bridge between them at that point. So it was that was, you know, weird. There's a bit more that went on with that, and actually it happened in the days afterwards. But
and the river does relate to Our Lady of Bluebell Hill, by the way. It does relate. Yeah.
So there was no trace of the vibe of the experience of, you know, session one. It was just completely different, to the point where I had to question whether it was the same intelligence. You know, it seemed different to me. And then I remember yelling out to you, probably expletives, and "There's death in the room!" Like, there's death in the room.
Yeah, I remember that.
Your breathing became extremely fast, and, you know, like something was literally going to blow the door down, and it did. It did blow the door down.
Yeah,
you know, not physically,
metaphorically, yeah.
but it did.
And I want to say at this point, we're going to carry on with your vibe there, but like, I felt like this wasn't, you know, our white lady. This was something that came along with her. That's the feeling that I had. I want to clear it because, you know, obviously it'd be the easiest thing in the world. Oh, that's what happens if you blah. But no. I feel absolutely no fear. Only you know, positive synergy with the white lady. But this was something else. This was something else that came in on the act as well. That was from the same landscape, but perhaps even relating to the hooded figure. We don't know. But anyway, carry on.
Yeah. So obviously I don't know.
We don't know, but this is just, we can only say what we experienced. Yeah.
So yeah, you've got that feeling that the room is literally vibrating. The vision itself was vibrating. So every part of the vision, even the air that you can't see, felt like it was physically going like this. I was vibrating, the head was vibrating, especially that third eye area that always goes like
Yeah.
mental in those sort of situations. And so everything was buzzing to the point where you felt like you might not even be separate to the room. Like there was that level of, are we all just going to dissolve? Like, or you know, what's going on? So, and I will liken that a little bit to the experience of taking Salvia Divinorum, where you feel your body just kind of splinter to pieces. You know, it was a similar. You probably get that vibe when you take a very large dose of psychedelics, and you end up combining with whatever's around you. It's very strange. And obviously it sounds weird, but I never really, as much resistance as I have with maybe the practical side of the first couple of sessions, there's no resistance when it comes to this really far out scary stuff. You just feel like going with it. So at the same time, there was an ultimately fearful sensation of everything going on. I'm crying out to him, holy crap, there's death in the room, shouting that. At the same time, I'm just almost can't wait to see what happens next, you know, in that moment. So it's very strange, you know, very strange vibe.
Yeah, and I can't also deny that I was enjoying it as well.
Yeah, it was...
yeah, can't deny that. That was kind of... But soon I would definitely not enjoy it, as we'll find out in a moment. But
yeah, so that's... Yeah, I can take it up until that point, and then it's more over to you again.
Yeah, so is this the point to bring in the attack?
Yeah,
it happened because we build up that crescendo with there's death in the room, and then all of a sudden it's like someone stuck a knife in the back, sort of, you know, the calf of my right leg, and it was horrific. I just grabbed hold of my calf, literally like I'd been stabbed, and it was a constriction of the muscle in my right calf to extreme levels that I'd never experienced before or since. I was literally just grabbing hold of the affected area, just coiled up on the floor, if you remember.
I do remember, because it was there, and I felt... What was weird is that I don't know whether
that you were okay with it.
It was because it was I don't know if it was voluntary or not. I guess it must have been, but I just had to sort of didn't react at all. I was, when that energy rushed into the room, that vibrational energy, it seemed to kind of just, you know, and it was just blissful. It was definitely death, but it was that kind of all powerful Saturnian kind of, it just suppressed everything to zero, and it was just for a moment you were like in this void of nothing, which meant you couldn't really respond emotionally to anything you saw. But there was a sense of kind of enjoyment, peace, the peacefulness, the terrible peacefulness of it. It was almost like a paradox. It's very strange, but at the same time I'm looking at you and I'm thinking, oh Christ, you know what's going on here. And
as I'm screaming in agony,
it's very difficult to know what to do, isn't it? So I just had to kind of like watch.
I'm the sort of guy, I could take a lot, don't like to complain, but like, I'm only being honest when I say that really hurt. You know, I was unable. Well, it wasn't possible not to vocalize it. It was excruciating, and we don't know exactly why it happened, but there's death in the room, and all of a sudden I'm writhing around on the floor, and then just as the pain started to retract just ever so slightly, but I did have trouble standing up. I was sort of like, everything was supported on my left leg, so I was sort of up in the room like this, sort of on one leg.
From what I remember, you couldn't get up for a long time, for maybe 20 minutes or so.
But that was after the what's the right word? Exorcism. If you remember, because I had to do the exorcism straight away. Yeah. And then after that, like when I sat down again, I couldn't get up for ages. Yeah. And then that had to be correct, because otherwise, how would I have done the exorcism?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So the next thing that happened was just pure instinct. the first thing that come into my head, it must have been related to recent reading or whatever. It was Gullenbursti, a Norse hog, if you remember.
I don't actually. No.
Yeah, it was. I just stood up and I was like making all these signs and shouting. I was just basically performing this instinctual exorcism in the middle of the room where I was projecting the banishment of the death and all that. I was like, I call upon thee, Gullenbursti, and just imagining this hog with its bristles just beaming out sunlight. It's just the first thing that came into my head, and it worked, because if you remember, it left.
Yeah.
Unless it was just all going on in me, but I do remember that it just left. Does that tally with you?
I don't remember what happened after.
But obviously it went downstairs.
Yeah, so did I go downstairs while this was going on?
Well, we don't know. We just, you see, because we haven't got enough notes on this point, we're just going to have to introduce now your experience of going to get the biscuits.
Okay, yeah.
See how weird this is? So we went to get some biscuits. Like I just performed an exorcism after being stabbed in the calf, and he's like, "Oh, I want some biscuits."
I don't know why, but I coped extremely well with that experience, to the point where it was almost felt like it was a natural part of me. Like, so there's something about that spirit that, I don't know, it was kind of like, you're all right, mate, you're kind of, a familiar, I did actually get told that, like, specifically. It's like, you're all right, you're kind of, I didn't really understand what this meant, but it was like, I don't have a problem with you, you're kind of on the side, do you know what I mean? Very weird.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm just saying, I'm not sort of claiming any special power or knowledge or anything like that. But
no, don't worry. I mean, we both had to say weird things, but they're talking about ourselves. But like, we can only say what happened.
Yeah.
If we left out all of the odd, weird, slightly embarrassing stuff or stuff that's too much, we'd have about 5 words left in this diary.
Yeah. So I think that this leaving the room, I wasn't afraid of. So bearing in mind that it very much seemed to me like it was outside the door and it came in, but obviously being part of a physical world, you're always going to relate doors to entry points. You're not going to imagine something seeping through the walls. Like, you're always going to be looking at the door. So whether it came through the door or not, let's face it was already kind of in the room anyway. So to go out the door, down the dark stairs and into a dark room alone was quite, it would normally, you just wouldn't want to do it, would you? You wouldn't. No. I'm not going down there on my own, not after that,
Yeah.
But
it felt all right.
Yeah, and I wanted some biscuits. So the thing about eating biscuits, or any sort of any food really, is that it's got a grounding act. It's like, bring me back down to earth. I'm going to eat something, of this world. I don't want to any more of that vibrational stuff or whatever. So going down into the kitchen and also going down to the ground level, that's symbolic of coming back down, right? So had we been doing that in the basement, I might not have gone up to get anything. You know what I mean? So there's something symbolic about going back downstairs. Okay?
Yeah.
So anyway, whether it was a latent residual effect of the experience upstairs, but it was very dark down there, like unusually dark, to the point where it was like dense darkness. It was really quite, it felt like it was just condensing out the corners, that sort of familiar, that what you describe of black paint, it almost seemed like it was kind of moving along the walls, and I was like, just go away. just keep away, because anyway, in the end, every time I turned around, I could feel this rushing in on me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to get struck or anything like that. This was quite scary. So I went into the kitchen, and I was keeping like one eye across the living room towards the front door, because again, I'm like, and in the end, I just had to go, look, just fuck off, I'm getting the biscuits. And that was the comedy moment, wasn't it? That was the comedy moment. But I was serious, like, and it went away. So I'm like, and there's something a bit more interesting going on with that statement. So the fact is that I felt like this spirit was familiar, and it was more kind of annoying me than scaring me. And, you know, I had this sort of ultimate control over it. So I said, you know, even if it's something as frivolous as getting biscuits out of a tin, if I tell you to fuck off while I'm doing it, then you fuck off. Don't care how scary, don't care what you are, just get away. So anyway, mission successful.
You probably just confused it utterly. It just was,
They don't expect it, no. So this is, you have to be really, really real with things like that. Otherwise they're going to find a way in, and you just have to be confident, like, and in all situations, like whether you're going on a date, you're trying to get business out of someone, confidence wins, right? Yeah. So I'm getting the biscuits, all right? So once I'd eaten a few biscuits, I did feel a lot better, because again, you're partaking of the earth element. It's like, oh hey, and I didn't go back up immediately. So obviously I wasn't very aware of my friend upstairs that could have been being attacked. I've diverted it back upstairs.
Rolling around the walls at this point.
You just don't know. So I then kind of felt a little bit more comfortable with it. So I went and sat in the living room, a chair in there somewhere, must have sat on a chair somewhere, and I could still feel it, like around the corner of the front room, just kind of, can I come in now? Sort of thing. And I just sat there and I'm like, and then there was the dialogue opened up, and I didn't ask any questions. I just got talked to. By, it's difficult to know what, or
because all these beings, they began to slightly converge for you in that moment.
Yeah, I felt so. I felt I was getting both together. So I experienced a vision of myself as an older man. So maybe I'm halfway to the age that I would have been in that vision. My hair was almost all grey. I hadn't lost any hair, but my hair was almost all grey, and it is going that way. Yeah. I had more hair on my face, and that was slightly grey as well. Yeah. So I've noticed these days that if I let my hair grow out a little bit, which I don't like doing because I'm not a beardy guy, it is 90% grey. So I could look like that if I wanted to now. And it was definitely she. So she reassured me that I was on the right path with everything I was doing. And she said, "There's a path available to you which is magical, and that's as far as I can go with that." So, but I was given lots of other pieces of information, but more of them were the next day and in the days afterwards. So in this particular situation, it was all reassurance that I was going to grow old, but I was going to be steady and healthy. All the things I was doing were setting me up for a better and sustained, successful life. And emotionally, I was fine. And it was kind of just reassurances. I just keep doing what you're doing. You're fine. Don't worry. But then there was also part of this that alluded to you've kind of got this choice to make. You
just checking the battery life.
Yeah.
Got 26% left.
Okay. So there was something about, I can't remember exactly how it was worded, but it was like, you've got a choice. If you want to, there's a path open to you, a magical path, a path that utilises faculties that you can only gain by certain types of training, by doing certain types of rituals and all that. These things are available to you, but if you choose to go down the magical path, you don't have a choice about where the path goes. So it was like, if you do this, it's going one way.
Yeah.
You don't go to it and then go, right, I'll do this, or I'll end up
that
doing
has
this.
strangely kind of come about when you think about it.
Yeah, so it's like, you can't be whatever you want to be if you take this route. You're going to be what that path intends you to be.
Yeah.
If you don't want to be what that path intends you to be, then you will just be very respectably, just your life will just evolve along the path it is now in the mundane world, you know, and all the sort of things you're experiencing will be something that you experienced, and that's it, you know.
Yeah.
And there was no pressure to make a decision in that moment. It was just, this is for your contemplation, you know. And that was it. It was maybe 5 minutes, and then I sort of, after that had finished, I was fully sober, fully sober.
So,
Biscuits, no problem.
So a little bit of life advice and guidance, you know, upon the future, and then you're upstairs, and then we're munching the biscuits that you brought up, and we're both coming back down to earth. At some point, I decided that I was going to drink some more because I wanted to find out more, and then I threw up. I was like, oh my God, like I thought I was the ayahuasca man. I don't throw up on it, but no, it's like, no, this time you're going to chuck up. It's your turn. You know, you've had it too good for too long. So I was heaving over the basin for a little while. And then I had, when I was falling asleep, I was sort of toying with this notion with the ayahuasca, that the little that was left in me about my future. Because when you think about it, you sort of talked about your future. But at this point, when it came to my future, there was just a little bit hanging on in me because I'd eaten the biscuits, I'd been sick, all this stuff. And just reading the notes here as I'm talking. It's my destiny to be a father. Yeah, that was my, and there was no more detail given than that. But it was like strongly emphasized, like a you know, to be a paternal figure, you know. So I think we even mentioned that in the first video, but like it actually came at this point, I believe, or it might have even come up twice. I'm not sure. So, so was there anything else in that session you can remember? Because that's all the notes.
I can't even remember what happened when that finished. Apart from the subsequent, the next day. So that one really hung with me, like the previous ones hung around with you. So I think, from what I can remember, the next day I was experiencing a kind of something still inside me, like trying to make contact. It was actually very clear, and
I do remember that now.
Yeah, so I went up.
You were having like downloads of information.
Yeah.
You were like properly channeling stuff.
I had to get out of the house because I felt like I couldn't experience it clearly enough. So I went to the stones where I could sort of be, because I felt that part of the communication was coming from something there. And you know, you and I would always go there to think, or you know, perform something that, you know, it was just that sort of place that we'd become very much tied to. So I went up there and I was sitting underneath the stones, and I was getting too much information at once. It was like a download. It sounds like a very cheesy phrase to throw about. A lot of people say, oh, you know, I had a download. I don't mean it was like, you know, like that, but I was getting lots of very kind of clear, very scientific information that was being, it did feel like it was just being hardwired into me. And I remember trying to make notes on some of it, but there was too much of it, and I was like, I actually can't cope with this. And then there was more about this, you know, this magical path, should you choose to take it. And I think from my perspective, especially with hindsight, you've got to be very careful about anything that offers you something. You know, that's probably not a good idea to go, yeah, you know, it's something that my curiosity was definitely saying yes, but I didn't. It was almost like you're being given a kind of moral choice in a way between where you are and where you might end up. So I believe that path, whatever that path is still open to me if I want to approach that. 5 years later, it will always be there, but I was given some information about astrological alignments, when to do certain rituals. There's a reason why we've got 3 black candles burning behind us, because part of the ritual was to burn 3 black candles in a particular place at a particular time. And so this sounds very much to me like a bit too, I don't really want to see what happens when I do this. Sounds a bit, you know, thanks but no thanks. It was another eating the biscuits moment. So that eating the biscuits has become a word that means, you know, kind of do the right thing. Just be careful. So eating the biscuits. I ate the biscuits again, basically, but I did start making lots of notes about some of the information I was given, and I started to come up with a bit of a plan. I was like, okay, so I can do that, then I can do that, and I did start to go down that road out of curiosity. Yeah. In the end, I decided that I wasn't going to do it, but I'm not going to take it out of the equation for the future. But I felt that it would be best to give it some time. Yeah. And I did, but for long periods of time, for a long time afterwards in meditation, the hooded figure was always in front of me. I would always be trying to focus on the face that you could never see. I had lots of it in my dreams. I felt like it was in this room, and eventually I cleared this room, and I felt the room clear when I did it. But there were definitely things in this room, or you know, part of that darkness that used to dwell in corners of the house where we did some of these operations. Yeah. I felt like it had followed me in here. There was one particular full moon. I think
perhaps we should say we're filming these, these few videos at your place. Yeah. Just so they have context. We filmed them all at. Well, no, we filmed the first few in the Amazon, / your place. Yeah. Outdoors. So.
So that was it for me. I'd been on this journey and got shown some very dark, very curious kind of things about myself, and I decided it was not the right time to pursue them, that I wanted to do things that were very much foundational work. I felt like I wasn't strong enough to walk that path. Yeah. And that was 5 years ago, and but part of me is always thinking about it, you know. So yeah, that was it. Sorry, that was me hijacking it a little bit.
That's fine.
But as you know, nothing really happened of any great magnitude for me until number 4. So
let's just say that things took off in a weird direction, in strange and wonderful directions over the next couple of years. So and it's only now we begin to understand the significance of some of this stuff that we went through. But to point it out directly would be crass. But there's a couple of things I've been realizing. Oh right, that refers to to now. So I'm sure that more of it will unlock in future, because I have had lots of flashbacks of ayahuasca. I'm sure that I always will, and I've seen Indians in the Amazon, and just this feeling of presence, and it's intrinsically related to magic as well. It can't be separated. So, you know, I mean, I'd say, I hope I can speak for you when I say ayahuasca is a magical psychedelic.
Of course.
If you're open to it and you, I mean, it is. I guess the only reason it might be more therapeutic if that's your mindset. But if you do have that shamanic tendency, it will open it up big time.
It can be used as a gate opener.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they do anyway out in the Amazon. You know, I mean, who knows what they get up to out there, but you know, it has a magical essence to it, and we should conclude this one with the puddle, because this is actually really the most shocking thing out of all of the sessions.
Somewhere there's a photo of this as well, isn't there? Not on the night, or was it on the night or the next day or something? But you've got a photo of it, haven't you?
I took a photo of it the next night, but it's the same puddle at the same time at night. Yeah. Or did I take a picture there and then? I probably did if I had my phone on me.
I don't remember.
Can't remember, but anyway, it's the same puddle. We have a picture of the puddle, and I'll tell you what. I'll put a picture of the puddle on the very end of the last video, the next video. You know, so we'll just let that image sink in at the very end. Yeah.
Yeah, good idea.
So this puddle, basically, at some point, I was like, we don't know. I mean, we might not have got the order right, but we're getting all the details in there. I'm like, we need to go. So this must have been earlier at some point. We need to go to the garage. You're like, what? I say, look, we need to go to the garage because she's telling me there will be a sign. So we took a walk to the garage, you know, like with the ayahuasca very weakly, you know, in our consciousness, but somehow one of the coils had come back and I was given this information. We need to go to the garage. There will be a sign. And boy, did we see a sign, because it's documented on my channel the significance of the corvid, whether you call it a crow, magpie or whatever, just a corvid, right? So there we are on the way to the garage, and you spotted it. I didn't notice it, but you spotted it. And we just stood there in just near disbelief, just gazing into this puddle, which was a perfect corvid. So I'll chuck that image on at the end of the next video. So we'll stop that one there, and are you all right to carry on for?
Yeah.
We'll just get it all done tonight, yeah?
Yeah, of course.
And we better get my phone on charge as well when I turn this off. So we'll see. What will this be? Number 7? No, I've lost track. I think it's 7. It will be 7, the next one, I believe. So it's nice to get it all done. So what we'll do, because the last session was, it almost didn't work, we can just talk about ayahuasca in relation to what we've learned, and perhaps in relation to hermetics, in other words, psychedelics versus hermetics. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Right. Go and get the biscuits.